Thank you very much. I'll stay on script and not talk about unit pricing. Why does it take so long to get changes that will benefit consumers in this sector? During the consultations on the start of retail competition in Queensland in 2007, we raised many of the issues and suggested many of the solutions that are now being considered. We were concerned then and remain concerned about the many consumers that are unable to or choose not to engage effectively in the energy market due to many reasons, including market complexity and the evidence of lack of trust that we'd already seen from the Victorian market. Unfortunately, our concerns have proved to be valid. So our retail objectives have been and remain. For those that are likely to be able to engage in the market, we've got to make it as easy as possible for them to do so. For those that can't or choose not to engage, we've got to ensure that they are not excessively disadvantaged. And we believe that we've got to foster effective competition that is based not only on cost, but also on customer service. We often forget that, and we don't realize how important it is until it becomes important to us. So here our views are on some suggestions for changes, and these are only a few. In relation to costs to consumers, we believe there needs to be a major review of the roles and nature of standing offers. Are they working to our advantage? We've just had them around forever. Are they really doing the job? Would something do the job better? We need to recognize that the discounting problem is not just a discount of what, but also for what, as Jarratt was explaining in his talk. We think that conditional discounts should be no greater than the cost to the retailer of customer non-compliance with that condition. We think this would reduce the size of conditional discounts and increase focus on lower base prices and final cost to the consumer. We think that in the case of late payments, there's a strong case for primarily charging the customer for late payment based upon a fair interest rate, which is applied to the amount that's unpaid and how long the bill remains unpaid. Where appropriate, this can be in conjunction with a fixed cost to the consumer to meet the retailer's obvious fixed costs. This is the fairest way to charge for late payments, and it's widely used by businesses, including the telcos, as Jarratt referred to. And some of them have very small minimum amounts before any charges are made, and some of them will waive charges quite easily. We think we should consider putting on bills the annual consumption, which is a very important and an increasingly important figure. You can't get that on your bill. To get your annual consumption, you've got to look back over 4 bills. If you're going to use Energy Made Easy, you've got to get the information from individual bills. That's not making it easy for consumers. We believe that will greatly increase consumer awareness and understanding of consumption, which many consumers know nothing about. And lead the greater use of cost-based information that is based on annual consumption, which we think is the way to go rather than monthly, quarterly, or daily information. We also believe that the time has come to have a look at whether network charges should be rolled in together with all the costs on the bill, or whether there may be advantages in terms of putting the network charges as a completely separate item on the bill. This, we believe, could force greater retailer competition based on the costs that they can actually influence, which are the energy purchase and the retailing costs. And it will also facilitate that major policy objective, which we are largely forgetting for the networks, that we should have cost-reflective network pricing through to retail level. We recognize that's a big suggestion, but it needs to be looked at. Turning now to the important area of customer service. This is just not given enough priority by policymakers and regulators, yet it has huge impacts on consumers. The 2016 Australian Consumer Survey, which not many people know about, was commissioned by the Treasury, and it reported, and it was over 4,000 consumers, It reported that 15% of consumers surveyed who were involved with the utility sector, which unfortunately also included water as well as gas and electricity, had experienced previous problems in the 12 months. This survey was very interesting because it also asked consumers to estimate what that cost them in terms of direct costs and time. And using the figures in that report, and I encourage you to have a look at it, I've worked out that the direct costs to consumers and time costs were $1.3 billion. And that was 8% of the national total of just over $16 billion. So it's an important thing, and this is a significant underestimate since it's only based on people who actually took some action to resolve their problems, and it probably excludes many other causes of consumer detriment that wasn't even looked at. You know, when you're hanging on forever in the telephone and you just put it down, how much does that cost you? So we think that there are major changes needed in the customer service area. For instance, we need to review how adequate the current monitoring and reporting of the quality of customer service actually is. We need to consider the scope and need for increased involvement of consumer organisations in this area by publicising the information, by generating our own information, going out and collecting information ourselves about what the actual quality of services is. And we should be encouraging consumers to give higher priority to customer service. We all know when things go wrong, when they went wrong for me last night with a credit card that my wife had used in the United States, you know how important good customer service is then. And we should be giving much greater priority to improving customer service for customers who are having difficulty in paying bills on time and in full. Retailers should not be letting debts escalate to the level that they are at the moment, and they should not be putting customers on unaffordable payment plans. Thank you.